Alright, so in my last video I talked about a bunch of different ways how to go up the slope. Now I'm going to talk about a couple ways how to move down a snow slope quickly and efficiently. So the first technique I'm going to talk about is called the plunge step. If you've ever been on snow before and not with skis, then you've definitely plunge stepped in some point. The idea with the plunge step is you want a nice clean slope in front of you. So while you're going up the slope, it makes sense to step in other people's steps that have gone before you, so that way you can reinforce their trail, as well as it's less work than breaking your own trail. When you're going down slope with plunge stepping, you have to find your own section of snow, because the idea is that you're using the compression force on the snow to cushion your step. And so that's why when you see people plunge stepping, if there's a group of people, they all spread out and they're going down the slope in their own section. And so you want to be careful about that, because it's really easy to sort of fall behind someone, especially when you're just like zoning out at the end of the day, but you do want to have your own snow. Now when I go for the plunge step, I'm going to drive my heel into the snow, and I'm going to just barely lock my knee. I don't want to lock it all the way. I want a little bit of a bend, again, for that cushioning. And I'm going to use the weight of my body to drive that heel into the snow. And you notice how I also have to sort of curve up on that foot right there. So sometimes you will feel a little bit of slippage sometimes, depending on the snow. And that can be a little bit of getting used to. But once you get used to it, then you can just waltz down the snow with relative ease and with really well cushioned from the snow. So you can walk down, thousands of feet in maybe an hour, hour and a half, depending on how fast you walk in the first place. A lot of times when you're plunge stepping on an actual snowfield or a glacier, you will hit patches of rougher snow, or I'll say more compacted snow and less compacted snow. So every now and again you will stomp and you'll hit kind of hard, and then other times you'll stomp and go into your knee, but that's just part of the fun of mountaineering. So it's just something to watch out for. Depending on the slope, you may choose to have an ice axe with you. If there's a poor run out, or if there's a big hazard at the bottom of the slope that you'll slide into, then you definitely want an ice axe, and among other reasons. If I do have an ice axe, I'm going to just hold it I like having the pick facing my back, so that way if I do fall, I go right into self-arrest. And I just hold the ice axe in my hand while plunge stepping. If I screw something up, whichever way I rotate, I go into self-arrest and go into the snow to stop myself, and I can re-get my footing and then continue down the slope. Okay, so another way to go down the slope is I like to call this the cool guy way, because you really look awesome when you're sliding down. It's glissading, but not the old style of glissading where you're actually sitting on your ass and sliding down and everything's getting cold. This is called the boot glissade, or the cool guy glissade. It's really nice to do this with footwear like full shank boots, because it sort of feels more like skis. It is definitely possible with more 3/4 shank boots, but I really like using full shanks for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get myself going, and I'm sort of just using my boots as skis going down the slope. I'm not really that good at the boot glissade, and the snow condition matters a whole lot. So you can see how I just sort of dug my whole weight, or like all the snow just fell underneath my boots. So this is not the best condition for the boot glissade. But if you have the right snow and a good balance, you can really go for a while. I've gotten, my personal best I think is like 40, 50 feet of sliding down on my boots. You just want to sort of push yourself into the heel and let the top of your boot ski over the snow. You just want to act like you're skiing with the boots. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about the more traditional glissade, where you're actually sitting down and sliding on the snow. This is a very common technique. If you've climbed a mountain with anyone, you probably have done this at some point in your life. The main key to think about with this glissade is, how do I stop, and are there any hazards? And if those hazards are there, am I avoiding them? So hazards in this exact scenario could possibly be tree wells, because we have a number of trees sticking out of the snow. And so when I glissade, I want to avoid those. If you've ever I mean, like everyone's sat on a sled and gone down a slope during their snow days as a kid, and you realize like a lot of those sleds are really poor at steering. That's roughly what you're getting with this glissade. A lot of times, especially on more heavily glissaded slopes, there'll be a glissade track, and so that will do a couple of things. One is it sort of funnels you in the right direction to avoid all those obstacles, but it has the snow compacted around, and it's like a water slide or a regular slide that just sort of shoots you down. You have less friction of the snow holding you back. In this case, we don't have that, so I'll be setting the track for the glissade. So I'm looking down slope, I'm looking at sort of where my exact glissade path is going to go, and then I have to be ready if I'm going off course or towards a hazard. I need to be ready to stop. And that's where the ice axe comes in handy. When I glissade, or when most people glissade, they like to use the spike of the ice axe as kind of like a rudder. Now it makes a pretty terrible rudder, but it can help you with not only moderating speed, but also sort of steering yourself. And then if you ever get too fast or out of control, or you're going towards a hazard, just swing around into self-arrest. And so that's why we're kind of holding our axes already in self-arrest position.